Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way YouTube channel, where you join us on a very special Celtic Way sit down. My name is Ryan McGinlay, and I'm joined by Emil Davidson, who is a Swedish journalist. Emil, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm awesome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing not too bad. As the time that we're recording this, about 2 minutes ago, Carl Starfelt, a fellow Swede, has just left Celtic, but it looks as if another Swede is going to come through the door to replace him. That man is Gustaf Lagerbielke, the Elfsborg defender, the 23-year-old. Before we start, if I could just direct everybody to the ticker tape below, at the bottom of the video of the screen. If you subscribe to the Celtic Way website, you'll be supporting top quality football journalism covering the club you love. If you visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. On the site today, we have a special scouting report on Lagerbielke from Stuart Ross. He's looked at the positives of his game, maybe some of the negatives that he can work on, and what he would bring to the Celtic side. So a really good piece by Stuart Ross. If everybody checks it out, it is a very insightful read about Celtic's potential new signing. But just to get on to Lagerbielke, I know Emil been talking to him over the last 24 hours. I guess I just want to start straight off the bat. What was he saying with regards to Celtic over the last 24 hours when you were speaking to him yesterday?
Yeah, so I went down to the training yesterday, as I said, and I talked to him after training, and obviously I saw the sporting director of Elfsborg. He has confirmed the interest, so he was not shy about talking about the interest and the fact that Celtic is actually interested in him. And he spoke about it being an honor. He spoke about Celtic being a big club that and he spoke about how players in Allsvenskan, the Swedish league, the Swedish top league, how most of the players dream about going abroad, being professional abroad, and it was clear that he is honored by the interest. And I was asking him whether how he would evaluate if there is a contract being displayed, how he would choose between, because obviously Elfsborg is in a battle for the first position in Allsvenskan right now. They're currently leading, so how he would evaluate those two options, staying and potentially winning a gold in Allsvenskan or moving to Celtic. And he was obviously not being too clear about how his decision making will be, but he was clearly flattered by the interest and seemed interesting. Being honest.
Yeah, it does sound as if he is honoured by the interest. He did use those words himself, and he's excited by the potential move that could happen. I think I'm right in saying that it would be a record fee if the deal was to go through for Elfsborg. So that's definitely a factor in all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
You talk about his importance to the team. I think Elfsborg at the moment are 2 points clear at the top of the league. Malmo are second place, and Häcken as well. Häcken are a bit of a surprise package, but they've been pushing up the league as well. Yeah. So how big of a loss do you think that Lagerbielke would be if he was to leave Elfsborg at this time? Obviously, it's the summer transfer window for Celtic, but in terms of Elfsborg, they're halfway through their season. How big a blow would that be in terms of his overall qualities as a player?
It would be a huge blow, definitely. Because he's been arguably one of the best centre-backs in the league this season. But with that in mind, it's also a very, very good defence that he is in, and he has a lot of very old, but the experienced players in that back line that he's played with. So we also have 1 and 2 centre-backs behind him that are quality, but they're not near the star flair that Lagerbielke has, and it's definitely a downside to it, and it will increase the chances of that gold in Allsvenskan 100%.
Yeah, it seems as if it would be a big blow to the team, especially as they were pushing for the league halfway through the season, but they're doing really well under their manager. Yeah. Just your what were your first impressions? I know that he sort of broke into the Elfsborg team over the past 1 or 2 years. He went out on loan last year, I believe, to a team that finished 13th in the league. What were your first impressions of the player, and what do you think of him now as a player? So when you seen him for the first time and when you see him now, what are the changes that you would say in his game in that time between those two time periods?
I feel like it's a drastic change, because when he came, he was still tall, but he wasn't really that big, and he's always had great feet. He's always been very good at pinging balls, being calm and collected with the ball. But he has really elevated his defensive qualities during his time here. And during his first 2 seasons, he didn't really get a game for Elfsborg. And it was that loan out to Degerfors. As you said, they finished 14th, but when he arrived, it was a club in crisis, and he was a big part of that club actually making it and staying in Allsvenskan. And it's after that he's come back and really been a completely different person. He's corrected his flaws of being a bit dangerous when balls are pinged behind him. He's no longer that threatened by that. He can handle that in a much better way. And there's a stat that during his time in Degerfors and his time in Elfsborg, he played 23 games without a loss, and that says quite a lot, because 10 of those came in that bottom side, Degerfors, which is completely insane, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, a very, very exciting young player. He's a player that made his Sweden debut this year as well, in a game against Iceland. I'm not sure if it was a friendly or if it was a Nations League game exactly, but I know that he did make his debut for Sweden. Do you think he's a player that could potentially be a mainstay in the Sweden national team? Is he one of the breakout stars of Sweden, and can he cement himself as a regular defender in Sweden's national team?
He definitely has the potential to do it, especially with our weak central defenders right now. But he's not near a starting position just yet. He's currently within or just outside the squad, I'd say. But he definitely has the potential to go there. And as he's 23 years of age, he's increasingly getting better. And I can definitely see him in the national team in a few years' time, but not just yet.
Yeah, it's good that he's made his debut already. I think that shows how good his form has been over the past year or so. It's a very exciting prospect for him, and it's definitely something that he can build upon. I know former Celtic. It's quite weird to say former Celtic player, because it was announced 10-20 minutes ago, but Carl Starfelt, former Celtic player, he struggled to get into the Sweden national team a couple of times. He's now just making his way into it. He'll probably have more of a chance now that he's at Celta Vigo playing in La Liga in one of the top 5 leagues under Rafa Benitez. But yeah, as a 23-year-old, he's got time on his side. He'll be playing for a team that dominates the ball if he does move to Celtic, and you would say his defending would improve as well as forward play. I think a lot of Celtic fans, and myself in particular, when Celtic were linked with him, I think it was a couple of days ago, about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, the clips came out of Lagerbielke playing long balls out from the back, pinging balls out long from the back, almost as if a goalkeeper would do with Route 1 football, but they seem to be really, really accurate passes to his wingers or his strikers. Do you think that's the main attribute to his game, that is his main strength? Or do you think his defending is better, or do you think it's his forward play that's better at this moment in time? Where do you think he needs improved, and where do you think is his overall strength at this moment in time?
If you were to ask me a year ago, I would have definitely said his feet, but I would say he's leveled up his defensive side to the point where he's just as good, arguably. But the thing is that he does those standout tackles, the slide tackles. You see that he can go into a running duel against a fast forward, and he throws himself in front of it. So his slide tackling ability is pretty impressive. And there's a clip, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's against the biggest rivals of Elfsborg, IF Gothenburg or IF Göteborg, where he slide tackles it straight into Jeppe Ockels, who then makes the assist. So he basically gets a second assist and slide tackle it at once.
Love that.
Which is pretty impressive. So he's definitely, his defensive side is good as well. And he's very strong in the air as well. He's 193 centimeters, so pretty
strong. I think if he was to come into the team, he would automatically be Celtic's tallest outfield player. I know we've got Joe Hart in goals at 6'3", 6'4", but Celtic traditionally don't really have a big team, even their centre backs, Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's just pushing 6 foot. It's more of his leap and his physicality that makes him a good defender. Nawrocki's 6'1", 6'2". I know that Lagerbielke, if he was to come in, would automatically be the tallest centre back at the club. Just in terms of breaking into the first team at Celtic, if he was to move to the club, do you think that he could instantly challenge? I know we were speaking off air about Celtic's current defensive lineup with Carter-Vickers, who is the mainstay in the team, along with new signing Nawrocki, who signed from Legia Warsaw, another team, a team that's used to winning all the time. So do you think that Lagerbielke could come into the team automatically and become a starter? I know that Brendan Rodgers has been maybe hinting that there could be a three at the back in certain games, perhaps in Europe. So do you think that Lagerbielke is ready to come in and instantly make that place his own at Celtic? That is, if he does make the move to the club.
I think long term, definitely, but I wouldn't bank on it instantly. Because that was the fact when he moved to Elfsborg as well. It took some time for him to get adapted and to improve, which is the way that Elfsborg works in many senses with a lot of players. It takes a lot of time in their system to fit in and to learn the role and then master it. And I would probably guess that would be the same case here. I would not throw him into the starting lineup on his second week at the club. I think that's a little bit too big of a step. We rarely see transfers from Allsvenskan straight to clubs like Celtic. It is not the best league in the world, but at the same time, he is a very promising player. He's a young player who can. He's shown that he can adapt into a defense, and he's a fast learner. He's very motivated. So I do think that he will definitely be a useful player this season if he was to come, but maybe not instantly.
Yeah, just in terms of just going back to the sort of strengths and weaknesses, is there a potential weakness in his game, like a glaring weakness that you think will need to be improved if and when he does join Celtic? Is there a specific attribute? Is it his concentration, maybe his strength on the ball? I know we've spoke about how strong he is on the ball, but is there maybe? I've heard a couple of people say that maybe his short passing leaves a lot to be desired at times. He can be a wee bit risky when it comes to passes. Is that maybe somewhere that can be improved, or what sort of attribute, what main attribute do you think could be improved if he was to make the move to Celtic?
I would probably guess his physicality, probably, because he's not the biggest guy in the world for a centre back, even though he's definitely not small, but that would probably be my guess. But at the same time, in an Allsvenskan context, he really has no obvious flaws against the center forwards that he is put up against. So it will be interesting to see him against in the Scottish League, and I think some flaws might be more obvious there, but he is a very well-rounded centre back, in my opinion.
Yeah, he definitely sounds like a player that Celtic could improve if they were to bring him in. Yes, they'd be bringing him in for what is for Celtic probably a big fee as well, in the region of £3 million, but it's a player that they can certainly improve upon and improve his game holistically. It's definitely a very interesting transfer if it does go through. I noticed that there is a story that is breaking, and it was breaking a couple of days ago, but then it made its way to the Scottish media about a day or so ago, that Lagerbielke is actually, I think it's 254th in line for the Swedish throne because he's a Baron. Could you possibly tell us more about that? Because that was a really interesting sort of dynamic that was coming through in Scottish media. Could you tell us a bit more about
that? Well, not much more than he is of a noble family. So Lagerbielke is a noble family. It's not a thing that you instantly know. It's one of those things that kind of came out of nowhere for us when we were reporting on him as well. It's not a thing that everyone knows who noble families is, but he's part of one, and so he hasn't had too rough of an upbringing.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's had it pretty easy for himself, and you know, he picks probably one of the hardest positions on the park to sort of, if he's had it easy, then you might as well be a centre back and get used to the rough and tumble of being a defender, I guess. Just in terms of his overall game, do you think he is ready for the step up to the Champions League in particular. Now, I know the leap from the Swedish league to the Champions League would be a big one. Teams in the past, such as Malmo, have played in the Champions League, but they've maybe not had the best experience, especially in the group stages of the competition. In terms of a player coming from the Swedish league to then play in the Premier European competition, do you think he's ready for that step up, being the age that he is? Do you think he's ready to take that opportunity with both hands and make himself a mainstay on the European stage?
I know he certainly thinks so himself, and I know he certainly has the potential to it as well. I can see it happen, but don't know how quickly he will adapt. But I know he definitely has the potential to go abroad, get a great career, wherever it may be, even if it's not Celtic. He will not stay in Allsvenskan for long, and I can see him on that stage. In what period of time, I don't know, but sooner rather than later, probably.
Yeah, I think the good thing is the step. There wouldn't be that much of a step up from the Swedish league to the Scottish league. I wouldn't assume, obviously, apart from maybe your Rangers or potentially Aberdeen as well, Hearts, but there is a similar sort of level. So I think he would be able to come in and stake his claim quite early on in his career. It'd be interesting to see who starts alongside him, if he was to start games, or if he's just going to come off the bench in games, get used to it before maybe impressing Brendan Rodgers in training. Do you think that Brendan Rodgers, being the manager of Celtic, is a big pull? He'll have obviously watched his Leicester team. I'm guessing that Premier League football is big over in Sweden as well. There'll be coverage of those games too. So seeing a manager that's worked at Liverpool, at Leicester, that's won trophies for Leicester, such as the FA Cup, he's been in Europe with Liverpool and Leicester. I think having a manager like that is an attractive prospect for a player like Lagerbielke to improve, especially considering the players that Brendan Rodgers has worked under and improved, both at his time at Celtic previously and in England with the two teams that I've mentioned.
Yeah, that is probably a very big pull. The other thing that he mentioned a few times when I talked to him yesterday was also the stadium capacity, the 60,000 fans. He mentioned that 2 or 3 times. It's definitely something that impresses him. And but obviously, I didn't talk to him about Brendan Rodgers specifically, but I'm sure it's a dragging pull there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure if he joins the club, then he'll have plenty to say about the manager that will be working under and how big a pull he was for him to join the team. Just before we finish off, Emil, and thank you very much for joining me again. Where can any Celtic fans find you that want to maybe learn more about Lagerbielke or want to read more of your stuff?
So I'm a sports journalist at the local newspaper who covers Elfsborg. We're called Borås Tidning, and it's one of them A's with a circle over the top in Borås. So we do a lot of coverage there. I myself have a Twitter account, E_Davidson7, which I post not too much, but sometimes when I find a good article to post. But yeah, I would. It is a big story, this one, so we are covering it from our local newspaper a lot, and yeah, we'll have to see what happens, because obviously if this the bid would have come in during the winter, it would have been an easy yes for the sporting director and the manager. Obviously, the only thing making this deal somewhat of a negotiation between probably people in the club as well is whether you want to keep him and really go for the league, or because, as you say, it's a record fee that would also make a statement, and it's an opportunity for Lagerbielke that might never come again. So it's a lot of things in this transfer that we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty to weigh up whether or not Elfsborg sell now and go without probably one of their main defenders, I would say, or they keep him and go for the title, but the money might not be there the next time around. You know, Celtic will have other options. They'll have plan B, plan C, plan D in terms of defenders that they can look upon. So it's all about that risk, I guess, that Elfsborg are going to take, and it'll be interesting to see what they do go with. But by all accounts, it looks as if this deal is edging ever closer. The player sounds as if he wants the deal, and I mean, for a Celtic fan's sake and for a Celtic perspective, we hope that the deal happens as soon as possible. But yeah, it's very much a watch this space at the moment. But thank you very much, Emil, for joining me today. I really do appreciate you bringing your insight on the player and the fact you've actually spoke to the player as well and got those quotes and the feeling about how he feels towards joining the club. That's really important and insightful information. So thank you very much. Just before we finish off today's special video, if you look at the bottom of the screen once again, if you subscribe to the Celtic Way website, you'll be supporting top quality football journalism covering the club you love. As I said before, we've got a scouting piece on Lagerbielke from Stuart Ross, who details the positives in his game, the negatives. He uses radars to look at his stats and the metrics in which Lagerbielke is working with and the percentile of those stats to see how he fares when compared to other defenders. So yeah, it's a very insightful piece and one that you should check out. If you go on www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, you'll be able to get that, and you will be even more in tune with Lagerbielke, with all things Lagerbielke and what he will bring to the Celtic team if and when he joins the club. But Emil, thank you very much for joining me once again. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
And thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Cheers, guys.